The year 2023 witnessed an explosion of labor protests and public dissent across China. Driven by economic woes and perceptions of injustice, Chinese citizens took to the streets in unprecedented numbers, with aggrieved workers, rural minorities, and others pushing back against infringements on their rights. The Chinese Communist Party reflexively responded with police crackdowns and armed force, yet the scale of the protests exposed deep instability threatening the regime. As 2024 begins, tensions continue to boil, foreshadowing a year of constant struggle. After decades of stability, China has entered an era of domestic strife that could fundamentally reshape its future. Fireworks protest against violence on New Year's Eve in China. On New Year's Eve, people shot fireworks at police cars and took videos of them and uploaded them to the internet. This sparked a 2024 of Chinese people fighting for their rights as free people. On December 12th, a video of fireworks being fired at a police car was released overseas, social media popular on X platform. The post with the picture stated, "On the evening of December 12th, a black vehicle fired fireworks at a police car in Zhaozhuang, Shandong. If 1 million cars fired fireworks at CCP, would CCP still exist?" The video shows a police car parked on the road, electric bicycle lane above with police lights flashing. A black car on the motorway was listening close to the fence. Fireworks of various colors were continuously shot from the car window, exploding on the roof of the police car and around it, and some of the fireworks fell on the car. The black car drove away immediately after launching the fireworks, indicating that the launch was intentional. The protest happened due to the fact that the Chinese government has banned the use of fireworks during the New Year celebrations. Many Chinese citizens considered the ban to be a violation of their rights. On overseas social platforms, some netizens commented, "This is public outrage." The Swona from Water Margin can be played. Here's to you, the hero on the last day of 2023. This may be the reason why guns must be banned, otherwise, Tiananmen Square. You've stopped hanging bacon for a long time, right? Right? We don't have guns, but we have fireworks. Can't wait. This year class struggle. The intensity of the attack has risen too fast. Just tell me, if we didn't stop shooting, this car would have been smashed to pieces. A video posted online showed a car shooting fireworks into the sky in front and a police car chasing after it with its siren honking, but the fireworks in front showed no sign of stopping. The incident also occurred somewhere in Shandong. This shows that Chinese people are becoming more and more active to defend their freedom, however small it is. No authoritarian system can hide behind their lies forever. The protest sparked a year of great changes that are about to occur in the mainland. China's escalating worker protests, a struggle for labor rights and unpaid wages. The socio-economic fabric of China's industrial paradigm is experiencing a phase of severe strife and discontent. The tremors of this unrest are vividly apparent in the rising swell of worker protests that have surfaced across the nation, largely due to increasing incidents of wage arrears and the clamor for improved labor rights. Notable media outlets across China, along with a plethora of user-generated content on social media platforms, are bearing witness to these escalating tensions. The spectrum of these demonstrations encompasses a myriad of industries, but particularly poignant are the scenes at the Chongqing Zhongyuan Huiji Biotechnology Limited Biotechnology Company, where protests have not only voiced the desperation of the workers, but also led to direct confrontations with the enforcement arms of the Chinese Communist Party. This surge in social upheaval runs parallel to the distressing trend of factory shutdowns, as observed in regions like Guangzhou, where a staggering figure of 1,800 factories have sealed their gates. The ripple effects of this are multifaceted, encompassing the distress of lost livelihoods and cascading layoffs, engendering further protests and exacerbating the unemployment crisis. According to the China Labor Bulletin, a watchdog organization that tracks labor disputes, the first half of 2023 alone has borne witness to 7 4-1 labor rights protests, a number alarmingly close to the 2022 annual total of 830 incidents. This statistic is not just reflective of a temporary surge, but indicative of a deeper malaise within the Chinese economy, strained by the dual exigencies of spiraling raw material costs and a competitive global market that is increasingly shutting doors on Chinese exports. On top of that, social injustice in China is on the rise. Starting from April 2022, multiple rural banks in Henan, including Yuzhou Xinminsheng Rural Bank, froze depositors' accounts without notice, blocking withdrawals and transfers. Tens of billions of yuan belonging to over 400,000 depositors have been inaccessible for over 600 days. Massive protests have happened since then. On December 26th, in Sichuan, Suining, many medical staff climbed out of the window to ask for wages. Protests surge in China's manufacturing sector amid economic crisis. The steep decline in export value witnessed since June 2022 is accentuated by continuous contraction in production outlooks marked by China's Purchasing Managers' Index, PMI, persisting below the threshold level of 50. The electronics and garment sectors, primarily situated in the globally connected province of Guangdong, fare as the most impacted thus far, with the number of protests within these sectors accounting for over half of all manufacturing sector demonstrations documented by the China Labor Bulletin in the concerned timeframe. The multitude of these protests are deeply rooted in the phenomenon of factory relocations and closures, a dire economic trend that is forcing workers into the streets to advocate for their compensations and overdue salaries. Moreover, in the electronics sector, the diversity is more pronounced, as worker demands transcend mere monetary recompense to encompass grievances over job insecurity and the absence of adequate compensation in the face of relocations and shutdowns. The situation reached a critical juncture. On November 4, 2023, hundreds of owners of the Guanlan International City Community in Linking City, Liaocheng City, Shandong Province, went to the Linking municipal government for a rally and held banners to protest against the developer's lack of heating. The authorities sent a large number of police to the scene. Another video message shows that on November 22, 2023, Yitai, Langfang, Hebei, the protesters chanted, "Give me back my hard-earned money." Also on December 5, 2023, the owners of an unfinished building in Jinshui District, Zhengzhou, Henan gathered to demonstrate holding A4 papers with "Meisheng, give me back my life." Moreover, the predicament is compounded by the fact that even civil servants, traditionally buffered from the volatility of the private sector, find themselves entangled in salary cutbacks, feeding into a broader governance crisis. The extent of this upheaval is not limited to the private sector. As per reports from sources like Voice of America, public servants are experiencing significant cuts in earnings, with some local housing authority employees in the eastern city of Nantong facing drastic deductions in their annual bonuses. Miao residents smashed police car and arrested SWAT officers. A group of Miao villagers in Anlong County, Guizhou Province, recently clashed with local authorities and police over the forced relocation of a cemetery. According to reports, after an elderly man's death, his family wanted to bury him locally per tradition, but the government demanded cremation and relocation to a designated cemetery for increased revenue. When SWAT officers and local officials tried to seize the deceased man's ashes on January 9th, they were met by hundreds of angry Miao villagers who blocked all exits to the village. Video shows the villagers smashing a police car and swarming armed SWAT officers, forcing them to surrender their shields and batons. The outnumbered police eventually handed over their equipment and apologized before being allowed to leave the village. The violent confrontation highlights the tensions between the Miao minority and local authorities in Guizhou over cemetery relocations. By uniting together, the Miao villagers succeeded in resisting the government's demands, at least temporarily. Their dramatic act of smashing a police car and detaining SWAT teams shocked officials and drew wider attention to the cemetery dispute. It remains to be seen how the standoff will eventually be resolved, but the Miao have made clear their staunch opposition through their forceful response, showing the CCP that they cannot squash their fellow men under the boots forever. This violent clash over burial rights spotlights the deeper conflicts between ethnic minorities and government authorities in China. The Miao see traditional burial practices as integral to their cultural identity, while officials impose modern cremation for revenue purposes. Though the villagers emerged victorious this time, the state may retaliate. Armored troops and special forces besiege town after protests over students' suspicious death. The death of a 14-year-old student in Ningling, Henan Province on December 24, 2023, led to protests that were met with an overwhelming police assault. The student's family found severe injuries on his body and suspected foul play, contrary to authorities declaring it a suicide. Outrage ensued when the school refused to provide surveillance footage. On December 28, thousands demonstrated at county government offices only to face hundreds of specially deployed police forces initiating a brutal crackdown. Former media figure Xi'an condemned this in a January 13th video as an atrocity, claiming armored vehicles and black-clad armed police had entered Ningling to retaliate against protesting villagers. The video shows a SWAT armored vehicle equipped with a machine gun alongside masses of shield and baton-wielding police in helmets. Scuffles unfold between officers and civilians, with policemen viciously beating women. Netizens likened the violence to past party atrocities and warned the regime's end was imminent. Reports indicate the deployed police forces stormed into the village, severing internet and power. They indiscriminately beat women, children, and elders, leaving some in pooling blood. Roads were closed and checkpoints established, turning Ningling into an information blackout zone. Hundreds were arrested under martial law as special forces from across Henan converged for the crackdown. The onslaught came after protests escalated on December 27th when the deceased student's family mourned outside the school. The next day, thousands occupied government offices, pushing down doors and overwhelming the building. More protesters stormed the school, vandalizing offices and assaulting the principal. In retaliation, authorities dispatched hundreds of special police forces, initiating a coordinated suppression. Officers rampaged through the town, employing savage and indiscriminate violence against the occupied buildings and broader civilian population. The brute force exemplified the regime's authoritarian reflex, valuing its own power over citizens' calls for transparency and accountability. Deploying armored vehicles and countryside raids reveals how quickly and forcefully the state mobilizes to quash dissent through violent oppression. But nothing can stop the people from seeking their freedom, even when they have to fight back armed forces. These instances encapsulate the multifaceted crisis currently enveloping the Chinese economy and governance. Protests for unpaid wages and freedom highlight not only the immediate plight faced by people, but also point to systemic issues within China's economic and political structure. The CCP's efforts to suppress discontent indicate a troubling undercurrent within the fabric of China's labor market dynamics, where the rights of workers are being thrust into the spotlight amid an environment of diminishing job security and governmental stability. The phenomenon of extended leave as a tactical avoidance of wage protests represents a chilling new development in labor relations and an implicit acknowledgement of the severity of China's unfolding economic crisis. It has become abundantly clear that the manufacturing core of the world's factory is under considerable duress. The repercussions of such widespread industrial tumult are not only confined to economic dimensions, but also hold far-reaching implications for the social fabric and governance of China, as the CCP confronts the mammoth task of mitigating the unease of its working populace amidst a backdrop of economic deceleration.